It's Savannah from Scrappy Mania, and today I'm going to scrap an heritage album using this heirloom paper stack. Now, what I want to give you some ideas how to address those documents that are part of your heritage. They're old documents and you want to preserve them for your future generation. For example, these documents that I'm showing there are from my father-in-law that it was part of he was in the military and he had to qualify for the military, and these are his target papers. So I want to preserve these. And also this map is actually the places that he's been while he was in the military. So these two documents I really want to preserve for future generations. This one is basically his discharge paper. This is a D-214. So anybody that's been in the military know that you get a DD-214, and it's your discharge papers, and you use that sometimes for qualifying for jobs and things like that. So I got his discharge papers, and this is for my father-in-law. And also I do have his other firing data card. So this is his firing data card from the military, and this particular one doesn't really have a date on it or when he qualified. However, it does says is a standard form, or is a USATCA form 1023, and it was done April. So this form was dated April 1960. So at least the form is 1960. His discharge paper does says it's around the 60s, so that's why I'm going to keep all this together and I'm going to scrap it on this layout. So what I did is, this is the background paper I'm using. So to me this paper looked more like a military kind of grungy old vintage paper. And then I'm going to put this frame right on top of here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and start designing my page, and I hope you like it. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a border, and actually the inspiration for this border came from Two Peas in a Bucket. It's actually one of the layouts that Elizabeth Kirschner, I believe that's her name, I'm not sure, but she designs Dear Lizzie papers for American Craft. Well, she created a layout using like a border, so I decided to do the same thing. She also did stitching around that border frame, and that's what I did. I stitched around the frame, and plus this album, I wanted to keep it cohesive. Not only am I using the same paper for all the pages in this heritage album that I'm creating, and the other thing that I'm keeping kind of cohesive is I'm using the element sheets and the paper itself with a couple of stamps and maybe a couple of stickers to create the embellishments. So that's why I stitched around the page. It has a rounded corner, so all my pages has a rounded corner, and it has inking. And one of the things that all my pages also have is a feather. So I went ahead and did a pocket, and the element that I have there, the stitching, the full stitching on that paper strip that you see there that I used to line up my pocket was not big enough, so I'm going to address that area over there that for now I do have a little embellishment just covering up the area that I didn't have enough to with my paper strip. So now I'm just kind of figuring out what elements I'm going to put on that cluster. So I know I'm going to create a cluster on the top in order to create some symmetry with the cluster that I'm planning to create at the bottom of my pocket to cover up the gap. So I'm creating the cluster on the opposite side, on the upper right hand corner. And then there's my feather. So one of the things one of the elements that throughout my album is a feather. So I'm trying to kind of figure out where to put that feather, and I really didn't like it there. I just couldn't see myself how to use it. Another thing is, because these documents are already pretty fragile. I mean, they've been in a box for a while. So I did not want to use adhesive, so that's why I'm trying to use a paper clip. Now I'm using that paper clip there to hold the papers in place, but it's not going to make the cut. So at the end, you'll see I'll use a regular paper clip to hold my pieces together. So now I go back to the element sheet trying to figure out what other pieces or what kind of other embellishments I'm going to use. I'm not going to put adhesive on the discharge papers. I'm just going to place it in the pocket, and it's going to be fine once you put in the page protector. It's not going to fall out of the page protector. So here I'm just putting some more clips, and now I found where I can put those feathers. I'm gonna put it right there where the clip is. And you're going to notice that a lot of my elements are kind of being anchored along the frame of my page, and I'm not using any adhesive at all that's going to touch my paper. Now I need a little thing there because I'm creating another cluster right there close to where those feathers are. So I go back to my element sheet and I found something that says inspire. So I decided to use that phrase. So now I'm kind of ready to put my title, and notice my title, you try to anchor your title with either an embellishment behind it or some kind of paper strip or even a banner. And that's what I did. I used a banner and another paper strip from the paper itself. And then it needed something else, so I decided to use this tag that I created with my Gypsy that says noted with a little heart. So I'm using a tag, and I lined up the tag behind it. I put some paper in order so you can notice the lettering. So I'm giving you a close-up look at all my embellishments, and notice that tag says noted. It has a piece of paper in the back, and I'm gonna at the end I outline it with black so you can really read noted. So now I'm going to my second sheet. So the second sheet is going to have just a strip of paper on the bottom. That's going to be my pocket. And then I'm going to repeat the same element. So a good rule for design is if you're doing a double layout, you want to repeat something from the first layout on your second layout. So the repeating element here is my paper, the background paper. My pockets are the same pattern paper. And then that paper strip that has a stitching on it, it's also repeated from the first page. And of course the frame is another repeat from the first page. So you want to make it cohesive. So now here I'm just stitching around the edges. And then I did do the rounded corners and the inking. And then I'm using paper clip because again I do not want to use any adhesive. As you can see from the paper itself, even on this video, it's kind of already worn and pretty fragile. So I didn't want to put anything that might make it not last. So I put a little cluster where my paper clip is to hide it. So that's why I put that chandelier there. And then I put my pocket. Now notice that I put the documents more to the left. And here I'm just cutting more elements from the element sheet. I put the documents to the left because I'm going to create a cluster on the opposite side on the lower right of my page. So I wanted to create something that had some length, as you can see there. So I put a paper strip with some numbers, and then I used that tradition that's part of the paper pad. I put it there, and that I really like that. And then I'm just making another collage the same way, similar collage on the right lower hand, and it's all from the element sheet from these papers. And then I'm doing the same thing. I need a little height, and then it's gonna go along the corner of that frame. So you see the clocks, so that I have some height with the clock. Then you have the roundness of that other clock beneath the life is good wording, and then some stickers. So here I'm going to show you the cluster. So there you see how I have kind of made a cluster there. There's my documents, and then here's another cluster similar to the top cluster. And that's pretty much it. So these are my page. So I think this is a good way to kind of address how to scrap your documents and to preserve it, because all this is asset free. So these documents are going to last. So I hope I inspired you and gave you some ideas, and thank you for watching.